The Galactic Council Chamber floated in the neutral zone between three spiral arms of the galaxy. Representatives from 57 advanced civilizations had gathered for the annual technology showcase. A massive hall sparkled with holographic displays, each species presenting their latest achievements. Captain James Walker stood at Earth's modest booth, watching alien delegates pass by with barely concealed amusement. The humans had only joined the galactic community 5 years ago, and their presence still drew mockery from older races. "Look at the primitives," a tall, blue-skinned Craven ambassador whispered to his companion. "They still use fusion reactors. How quaint." The Craven's companion, a crystalline being from the Void Empire, chimed in agreement. Their fastest ships barely reach 10% light speed. "My grandfather's cargo hauler moves faster than their military vessels." James kept his expression neutral. He had heard worse over the past days. The human delegation had brought their latest achievement, an improved warp drive that could reach 15% light speed. By galactic standards, it was laughable. The Craven Empire's ships could fold space itself, traveling between stars in hours. The Void Empire had mastered quantum tunneling, peering anywhere instantly. Merle Kate Ross, head of Earth's delegation, placed a hand on James's shoulder. "Let them laugh," she said quietly. "They don't know about Project Shadow." Project Shadow. The name alone sent shivers down James's spine. For 20 years, Earth's brightest minds had worked in absolute secrecy on something that defied conventional physics. Not faster than light travel, something far more ambitious. Lord Thane of the Craven Empire took the central platform. His voice boomed across the chamber. "Fellow beings of the galaxy, today we showcase why the Craven Empire remains the supreme military power." A massive hologram appeared, showing a fleet of sleek warships. "Our new Devastator-class vessels can fold spacetime, strike any target in the galaxy within 6 hours, and carry weapons that can crack moons." The assembly erupted in polite applause. The Void Empire presented next, their ambassador demonstrating ships that could phase through solid matter. The Nexus Collective showed swarm technology, millions of tiny ships acting as one massive organism. When Earth's turn came, James walked to the platform amid snickers and whispers. "Honored delegates," he began, his voice steady. "Earth presents our Mark III warp drive, capable of 15% light speed." Someone shouted from the crowd, followed by laughter. Lord Thane stood up, his 4 arms crossed. "Young human, perhaps you should observe for a few more centuries before presenting. This is a showcase for advanced technology, not museum pieces." The laughter grew louder. James looked at Admiral Ross, who gave him a slight nod. He touched a hidden communicator in his ear. "You're right, Lord Thane," James said, surprising everyone. "Our warp drives are primitive. Our weapons are basic. Our shields are weak." He paused, letting the agreement sink in. "That's why we built something different." The lights in the chamber flickered. Then, impossible as it seemed, space itself seemed to ripple. Where nothing had existed a moment before, a shadow began to form. Not a ship arriving through hyperspace or folding space or using any known method of travel. It was as if reality itself was being painted over. The shadow solidified into a massive vessel, larger than any warship present. Its hull seemed to shift and flow as if it existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Parts of it appeared solid and transparent, then solid again. The very air around it warped, creating visual distortions that hurt to look at directly. What is that?" Lord Thane's voice had lost its arrogance. Admiral Ross stepped forward. "The U.E.'s Prometheus, humanity's first dimensional ship. It doesn't travel through space, Lord Thane. It exists partially outside it." The chamber had gone deathly quiet. Every scanner, Every sensor pointed at the impossible vessel. The readings made no sense. The ship registered as being there, and not there simultaneously. Its mass readings fluctuated wildly. Energy signatures suggested it was drawing power from somewhere that didn't exist in normal space. "This is a trick," the Void Empire ambassador said, but his crystalline form flickered with uncertainty. "Some sort of hologram." James smiled. "Would you like a demonstration?" The Prometheus began to move, and that's when the real terror began. The Prometheus drifted forward with an unnatural grace that defied physics. It didn't accelerate or decelerate in any conventional sense. It simply moved, as if the universe itself was sliding around it rather than the ship moving through space. Lord Thane's second in command, a younger Craven named Commander Vex, activated. Every scanner on their flagship. "My lord, the readings. They make no sense. The ship is generating a field that our instruments cannot penetrate. It's like trying to scan a hole in reality." Admiral Ross gestured to the viewing screens. "The Prometheus operates on principles your science hasn't discovered yet. While you've all been racing to move faster through space, we asked a different question. What if we didn't have to move through space at all?" The crystalline Void Empire ambassador scoffed. "Impossible. The laws of physics as you understand them," James interrupted. "Every civilization here mastered faster than light travel by bending, folding, or tunneling through space. But space itself is just one dimension of reality. The Prometheus doesn't travel through space. It shifts partially into parallel dimensions, where the laws are different." To demonstrate, the Prometheus suddenly flickered. For a moment, it appeared to be in 5 places at once, each image slightly transparent. Then 4 of the images vanished, and the ship had moved several kilometers without crossing the space between. "Tactical implications are beginning to sink in," Kate Ross observed, watching the alien faces change from mockery to concern. "A ship that can't be tracked, can't be targeted, can't be stopped by conventional means." The Nexus Collective, a hive mind of thousands of connected beings, spoke through their primary node. "This technology, if it's real, it changes everything." "Show us more." James nodded to the Prometheus. The massive ship began to demonstrate its capabilities. First, it passed directly through a solid asteroid that had been brought for mining demonstrations. Not around it, not breaking it through it, as if the rock didn't exist in whatever dimension the ship occupied at that moment. Next, 3 Craven automated defense drones were launched, the same models that protected their empire's borders. They fired their plasma weapons at the Prometheus. The energy beams hit the ship and simply disappeared, not absorbed or deflected, but lost somewhere between dimensions. "Where did the energy go?" Commander Vex demanded. "Into a dimensional pocket," Admiral Ross explained. "The Prometheus can shunt incoming attacks into parallel dimensions. Your weapons are hitting the ship, just not in this reality." The demonstration continued. The Prometheus launched what looked like conventional missiles, but they flickered, in and out of existence, appearing inside the target shields as if they had always been there. A fighter bay opened, and small craft emerged, not by flying out, but by shifting into this dimension already in motion, already in formation. Lord Thane's blue skin had paled to almost white. "This is an act of aggression. You've developed weapons, while pretending to be peaceful." "On the contrary," Kate Ross said calmly, "we developed this because we had no choice. When humanity entered the galactic community, we realized how far behind we were. Centuries behind in conventional technology. So we chose a different path." The Void Empire ambassador's crystalline form pulsed with agitation. "You cannot have developed this alone. Which species helped you? Who betrayed the technology accords?" "No one," James replied. "That's what you all never understood. You saw our primitive technology and assumed we were primitive minds. But humanity has something unique. We think differently. While you all followed the same technological path, each building on the previous civilization's discoveries, we started from scratch. We asked questions you never thought to ask. The Prometheus performed one final demonstration. It began to fade, becoming translucent. Through its hull, the stars on the other side became visible. But the ship was still, their sensors confirmed it. Gravitational readings showed its mass. It had become a ghost, existing just enough in this dimension to be present, but not enough to be touched. Defensive mode, Admiral Ross explained. The ship can shift 90% of itself into a parallel dimension, making it virtually invulnerable, while still maintaining position and awareness in our reality. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives were sending urgent messages to their governments. The balance of power that had existed for millennia had just shifted dramatically. The primitive humans, the ones they had mocked and dismissed, had just revealed technology that made every fleet in the galaxy obsolete. Lord Thane stood slowly, his four hands clenched. You've doomed yourselves, humans. The galaxy won't tolerate such a threat. Every civilization here will unite against you. Admiral Ross smiled coldly. Will they? The Prometheus is just our prototype. We have 12 more under construction, each one learning from this model's design. The emergency session convened within hours. Never in the Galactic Council's 1,000-year history had all member species demanded an immediate gathering. The chamber buzzed with heated discussions in hundreds of languages, universal translators. Working overtime, Lord Thane commanded the floor, his massive frame towering over the podium. The humans have deceived us all. They joined our community under false pretenses, claiming to seek peaceful cooperation while secretly developing weapons that threaten every civilization here. Admiral Ross remained seated, her expression calm as the storm raged around her. James stood beside her, watching the fear spread through the assembly like wildfire. The Void Empire. Ambassador materialized at the podium in a flash of light. The technology must be shared immediately. No single species can possess such an advantage. It violates every treaty, every accord we've established. What treaty? Kate Ross finally stood, her voice cutting through the chaos. Show me where we signed any agreement limiting our research. We were never invited to those accords. You all deemed us too primitive to matter. The truth of her words silenced many delegates. When humanity had first achieved faster-than-light travel 5 years ago, they had been granted only observer status in the Council. Full membership, with its restrictions and obligations, had been denied. This is semantics. Commander, Vex shouted. The spirit of galactic law. The spirit? James laughed bitterly. Where was that spirit when the Craven Empire demanded 70% of our mineral exports as protection fees? Where was it when the Void Empire claimed 3 of our colony? Worlds were in their traditional space? The Nexus Collective's thousands of voices spoke in unison. The humans raised valid points. They were treated as inferiors, exploited, mocked. Can we blame them for seeking alternative defenses? Lord Thane's 4 arms gestured wildly. Defenses? That ship is a weapon of conquest. It could appear above any homeworld, inside any defensive perimeter. Yes, it could, Admiral Ross agreed. But it hasn't. We've had this technology for 2 years now. Have we attacked anyone? Have we made demands? We revealed it only because we're tired of being treated as galactic peasants. A small, elderly being from the archived world stood up. These were the oldest civilizations, the ones who had seen empires rise and fall. May I examine the historical records? The chamber quieted. The archived worlds rarely spoke, but when they did, all listened. 3,000 years ago, the elderly being continued, The Craven were considered primitive by the then-dominant stellar hegemony. They were mocked, exploited, their resources taken, until they developed phase shift technology and overthrew their oppressors. He turned to the Void Empire. 2,000 years ago, your ancestors were slaves to the crystal dynasties. You developed quantum consciousness and broke free. The implications were clear. This was a cycle repeated throughout galactic history. But this is different, Lord Thane protested. Those were incremental advances. This dimensional technology, it's a paradigm shift. It makes every defense useless, every fleet obsolete. Every new technology seems that way, the archived world representative said, until countermeasures are developed. The question is, will humanity share their knowledge peacefully, or will we force another war? Admiral Ross stepped forward. We're willing to share ... eventually. But first, we want recognition, full council membership, equal trading rights, the return of our occupied colonies, and an end to the mockery. The chamber erupted again. The powerful species weren't used to negotiating from a position of weakness. The Prometheus, still visible through the chamber's transparent walls, suddenly shifted. Where one ship had been, 3 now appeared, each flickering between dimensions. Then 5, then 12. All identical, all impossible, all terrifying. A demonstration, Kate Ross said quietly, but her voice carried. The Prometheus can create dimensional echoes of itself. They're not fully real, but your sensors can't tell the difference. One ship can appear as a fleet. A fleet could appear as an armada. The psychological impact was devastating. Not only did humans have an invincible ship, but they could make. It appeared to be anywhere, in any number. Lord Thane sat down heavily. What guarantee do we have that you won't use this technology to conquer the galaxy? The same guarantee we had that you wouldn't exploit us, James replied. None. But consider this. We revealed this technology voluntarily. We could have stayed hidden, built our fleet in secret, struck without warning. Instead, we're here, talking. The Nexus Collective buzzed with internal discussion. We propose a vote. Accept humanity as full council members, with all rights and responsibilities. In exchange, they agreed to regulated sharing of dimensional technology. The vote was called. One by one, civilizations cast their decision. The weak species voted yes immediately. They saw humanity as potential protectors against the strong. The middle powers were split. The moment of truth came down to the 3 superpowers. Asterisk before the vote could be completed. Alarms screamed through the station. The massive view screens that surrounded the council chamber flickered to life, showing a sight that froze every being present. A vast fleet had appeared at the edge of the system. Not Craven, not Void Empire, not any known civilization. The ships were organic-looking, twisted amalgamations of metal and flesh that pulsed with sickly green light. The Devourers, someone whispered in horror. The Devourers, a plague that swept through galaxies, consuming entire civilizations before moving on. They had been dormant for 500 years, and now they were here, at the worst possible moment. Lord Thane immediately took command. All vessels battle positions. Form defensive line around the station. He turned to Admiral Ross. This changes nothing between us, human, but if you have any honor, you'll help defend. His words were cut short as the Devourer fleet moved with impossible speed. Their bioships didn't use conventional faster-than-light travel. They tore holes in space itself, bleeding through reality like an infection. The Craven fleet, the most powerful conventional force in the galaxy, opened fire. Plasma beams, antimatter torpedoes, singularity weapons, everything they had. The Devourer ships absorbed it all, their organic hulls regenerating faster than they could be damaged. The Void Empire ships tried their phase technology, shifting out of normal space to attack from unexpected angles. But the Devourers somehow tracked them, bioorganic tendrils reaching through dimensions to snare them. 3 Void Empire cruisers were pulled back into normal space and consumed in seconds. "Admiral," James said quietly, "we have to." "I know," Kate Ross replied. She activated her communicator. "Prometheus, engage the Devourers. Full dimensional warfare protocols." The human ship moved forward, its hull shifting between states of existence. The Devourers immediately focused on this new threat, recognizing something different. Bioorganic projectiles that could eat through any known armor were launched at the Prometheus. They passed right through it. The Prometheus existed just enough out of phase that physical attacks couldn't touch it. But more importantly, it could attack back. Missiles appeared inside the Devourer ships, bypassing their regenerative hulls entirely. Explosions bloomed from within the bioships, causing damage they couldn't heal from. How? Lord Thane demanded, watching his most powerful weapons fail, while human missiles succeeded. "The Devourers exist fully in our dimension," Admiral Ross explained, never taking her eyes off the battle. "That's their strength and weakness. The Prometheus can attack from dimensions they can't perceive or defend against. But the Devourers were adapting. They always did. It's what made them so dangerous." Their ships began to pulse with dimensional energy, trying to match the Prometheus's phase variance. James watched the tactical display. "They're learning. Give them another hour, and they'll crack our dimensional shifting." "Then we don't give them an hour," Kate Ross said. She turned to the Council. "We have a weapon we haven't tested. It could destroy the Devourers. Or it could tear a permanent hole in space-time. We need the combined computing power of every ship here to calculate the safe parameters." Lord Thane didn't hesitate. "You'll have it." For the first time in galactic history, every species worked as one. The Craven provided raw processing power. The Void Empire offered their quantum computers. The Nexus Collective linked thousands of minds to the task. Even the smaller civilizations contributed what they could. The Prometheus moved to the center of the Devourer fleet, taking hits that would have destroyed any other ship. It flickered between dimensions, existing in multiple states simultaneously. Then it began to pulse with a new kind of energy. "Dimensional cascade weapon charging," Admiral Ross announced. "If this works, it will collapse the Devourers into a dimensional pocket, trapping them outside our reality." "And if it doesn't work?" the Void Empire ambassador asked. "Then we all die together," James said simply. Asterisk. The Prometheus released its weapon. Reality screamed. Space itself twisted, forming a whirlpool of dimensional energy. The Devourer ships were caught in the cascade, pulled toward a point that existed in no dimension and all dimensions simultaneously. One by one, the bioships were dragged into the vortex. They tried to escape, but for once, their ability to regenerate worked against them. They couldn't sever parts of themselves to flee. Within minutes, the entire Devourer fleet was pulled into the dimensional pocket. The Prometheus sealed the rift with a final pulse of energy. Where the Devourer fleet had been, only empty space remained. The council chamber was silent. Then, slowly, applause began. Not mocking or polite, but genuine appreciation for what humanity had just done. Asterisk. The aftermath of the Devourer crisis changed everything. The vote that had been interrupted resumed, but the outcome was no longer in question. Humanity was granted full council membership by unanimous decision, the first unanimous vote in the I. Council's history. Lord Thane himself stood to make the announcement. The humans have proven themselves not through conquest, but through defense. Not through domination, but through cooperation. They possessed the power to rule us all, yet they chose to protect us. Admiral Ross accepted the membership officially, but her expression remained serious. "We accept with conditions. The dimensional technology will be shared, but gradually. Every species will need to prove they can handle it responsibly. That's fair, the Void Empire ambassador agreed, his crystalline form pulsing with new respect. We've all seen what uncontrolled power can do. The Devourers were once a peaceful species before they discovered biomanipulation technology and ology, lost themselves to it. Over the following weeks, humanity established the Dimensional Technology Institute. Representatives from every species were invited to study, but the learning curve was steep. The technology wasn't just about engineering. It required a fundamental shift in how beings understood reality. James was appointed as liaison between humanity and the other species. He worked closely with Commander Vex, who had gone from enemy to eager student. "I don't understand," Vex admitted during one session. "How did humans even conceive of this? Everyone else followed the same technological path." "Because we were desperate," James explained. "When you're centuries behind, facing exploitation, you can't afford to follow the same path. You have to take risks, think differently. We called it leapfrog development, skip the intermediate steps entirely. The Nexus Collective proved most adept at understanding the theory. Their hive mind could process paradoxes that individual minds struggled with. Reality is not fixed," they broadcast to their students. "It's a consensus, and the dimensional drive simply disagrees with that consensus." The Prometheus became the first of many dimensional ships, but Earth maintained strict controls. Each species could build one prototype under human supervision. The technology was too dangerous to release freely. One miscalculation could tear holes in reality that might never heal. Lord Thane's empire struggled most with the new balance. They had ruled through strength for millennia. Now, their vast fleets were still powerful, but no longer supreme. During a private meeting with Admiral Ross, he admitted, "We mocked you to hide our fear. When new species achieve space travel, they either submit or challenge the order. You did neither." "We did both," Kate Ross corrected. "We submitted long enough to learn, then challenged in a way you never expected." 6 months after the Devourer crisis, the first joint dimensional expedition was launched. The ship, built with human technology, but crewed by all species, would explore dimensions parallel to our own. The mission commander was Captain Walker, the same James who had endured mockery at that fateful council meeting. "The dimensional drive doesn't just let us travel," James explained to his mixed species crew. "It lets us access infinite variations of reality. Dimensions where physics works differently, where resources are abundant, where new forms of life might exist." The expedition discovered wonders beyond imagination. Dimensions of pure energy that could solve the galaxy's power needs. Realities where time flowed differently, allowing rapid research and development. And yes, dangers to dimensions where hostile entities existed, where the laws of physics were actively malevolent. But the greatest discovery was not in another dimension. It was the realization that cooperation born from crisis could evolve into genuine partnership. The species that had mocked humanity now worked alongside them as equals. During the expedition's return celebration, Lord Thane made a historic admission. "We were fools," he announced publicly. "We judged advancement by our own metrics, wisdom by our own standards. Humanity reminded us that there are always new paths, always different solutions." The archived world's representative, ancient, and wise, added the final observation. "Every species believes their way is the only way until someone shows them otherwise." Humanity's gift wasn't just dimensional technology, it was dimensional thinking. As the Prometheus and its sister ships patrolled the galaxy's borders, no longer just human vessels, but symbols of united defense, Admiral Ross reflected on the journey. From mockery to terror, to respect humanity had changed the galaxy not through force, but by being dangerously creative when cornered. What's next? James asked, standing beside her on the station's observation deck. "Now we explore," she said. "Not just space, not just dimensions, but possibilities. We've shown the galaxy that the impossible is just another problem to solve." The dimensional ships flickered in and out of reality, guardians of a new age where humanity's emergence had transformed mockery into wonder, terror into respect, and isolation into unity. The galaxy would never be the same. Asterisk,